discussion. We have some very special guests in the house today. We'll be cutting to a video message from Geoffrey Debono from Debono Group, specifically on this topic.
We believe that technology is a way of how to make the world a better place. It can drive change at a faster pace than ever seen before. People can now move from A to B and save time and money. The pandemic has been a great opportunity for us to realize that things can change and they can be made better than they were ever before. We believe that the pandemic has also given us the opportunity to experience less traffic on our roads. And through our service school, we have, since its inception, reduced traffic kilometers by 1.5 million and saved 400,000 kilograms of CO2. We firmly believe that with continuous developments through technology, one can continue to see these changes coming through. And this is just the start.
Daily. Today we'll be talking about a very important discussion, a very important topic right now, transportation as well as new mobility innovations. Now in the house today with us, we've got Azzopardi from Malta Public Transport, the people behind the Tallinja bike, as well as Suzanna Maas, who's part of EIT Urban Mobility Hub Malta, an organization looking into new innovations. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning.
Good to be here.
So obviously the first thing I wanted to talk about is, some of the changes we've been seeing in Malta over the last few years. We've seen things like ride pooling, car pooling, bicycle sharing, which is a concept I don't think most people had even ever heard of up until a few years ago. We're seeing electric scooters in vehicles on the island. Why is this change a good thing?
Quite a range, in fact. Yeah. In fact, when we launched Tallinja bikes in around 2018, it was just a pilot project practically, so the discussions about intermodality and electromobility was still in its infancy. And we launched it in Valletta as a sightseeing project, so it was bike sharing, but literally just for you to get around the capital city and have a look at the capital. Then with the development, with the awareness and the demand that has been put out there, we started expanding that even further. Why? Because people wanted to use it not just to get around Valletta, but also to start making use of our bikes to commute, for example.
How good.
In fact, what took us along now is that we have bike stations practically laid out all throughout the majority of the main areas. For example, we've got bike stations in Bombay, in Pembroke Park and Ride, in Marsa Park and Ride, and the intention of all this, with all this development and with all this sharing that is going on, is literally for someone to be able to catch, for example, the ferry from Birgu and get all the way to Valletta. There's a bike station at the Baraka lift, take the bike and go to junior college, for example, or go to university, or else catch the bus. Okay, get to Pembroke Park and Ride with the bus, and then take one of our bicycles and go to university again. So it's literally putting all the available means of transport together, and especially since obviously we are part of Malta Public Transport, all our stations have been placed strategically in order for them to be communicated with the transportation of the buses, so that you can get along using the bicycles.
It's really exciting time. Suzanne, why is this so important to happen in Malta right now?
Well, I think what you see is that with all these options, it just really increases the opportunities and flexibility for people. So indeed, like Alan was saying, you can combine two different forms of transport to complete your trip rather than having to replace what you would normally do by car completely by bike. It might be too far for you. There might be a really steep hill. So indeed, you take the ferry to cross the harbor, or you take the bus to complete a certain part of your journey, but then the bike for the first or last mile. This is what is often referred to as the solution, especially the smaller shared mobility solutions like the kick scooters and the bikes to sort of complete that trip, because even in Valletta, if you arrive at the bus station in Valletta, it could be still quite a walk
there you go,
to the very tip of Valletta. So rather than a 15-minute walk, which is obviously still a pleasure to walk through Valletta, but it might be much easier to grab that bike and be there in 2 or 3 minutes instead. So I think it really has opened up the opportunities and given much more flexibility and options.
Now, another aspect that we've been seeing developing in Malta over the last few years is the integration of technology. So you can pay for things online through your mobile now. You can order things, be it a scooter or a cab, or even subscribe to some services. Why is it important to merge these two words? And is it a bit of a challenge, merging transport with technology?
The development in technology has been very quick. So technology has, from a software point of view, so I'd like to make a distinction, has caught up very quickly, and this continuously being developed. As a challenge that we sometimes encounter is then you've got the hardware, which obviously takes a little bit more time to close the gap between hardware and software. Software is being developed all the time, changes are being done, but then you've got hardware. When I say hardware, we've got trackers, onboard trackers on each and every single bicycle, for example. And that takes longer. It's harder, it needs developing, it needs manufacturing. So to close the gap between the hardware and the software is always rushing so much forward, that is a little bit of a challenge that I think everyone, in fact, feels right now on the market, in fact.
So how do you see this development area?
Yeah, I think this is really now the next step, you know. So now we have all these options, but you don't want to plan everything separately, pay for everything separately. And this is what is now put forward around the world as mobility as a service, where instead of, you know, buying the product, like we see in many other types of services, we're actually starting to pay for the service rather than the product. So like music streaming, like video streaming, you're also paying for mobility as a service. So yeah, I mean, it's important that it's not only the sort of the physical integration at site, which is important, but also the payment integration, but also the planning of your trip.
Yeah.
That you have an app that can show you from A, your home or your place where you're based, to B, where you want to go, exactly how long it might take, what are your options. I mean, this can be in terms of time, it can show the cost, it can even show how much calories you might burn if you walk, because
Really
this is, of course, also a very important
Very good.
aspect of mobility, where we've become extremely lazy, unfortunately, and see that also in our lives. Yeah, I think people have started to realize that this is serious, you know, especially since the pandemic as well, the need for more daily activity. So
Very
yeah,
right.
you could also use part of your mobility as a means towards getting your daily exercise in, and yeah.
So we're talking about the tech side, but now I want to talk about the human side. So the Maltese public, have you seen that they're keen? Are they keen in specific areas? Are they looking at carpooling? Are they looking at electric scooters? When it comes to the public, what are you seeing from them in their feedback and their interested areas?
The interest has increased. So obviously, the more awareness you put out there, the more people are interested to try. First of all, there are two factors where, from our side, it's keeping you healthy, because at the end of the day, you are still riding a bicycle. It's an electric bicycle, so it helps you, but you're still riding a bicycle, you're still putting effort. So there's the health promotion from that point of view. And then there's also the green aspect, okay, where we're talking about mostly making use of electric vehicles, electric scooters, electric bicycles. So people are reaching out a little bit more in that aspect. What we find is that the age is more on the younger side. Okay, our youngsters are willing to try a little bit more and a little bit faster, and then maybe us older generation catch on as we get along. However, yes, it's more of the younger generation who are ready to throw themselves into it and give it a try.
Is that surprising? Is that something we typically see abroad as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because I actually did research on shared mobility as well in the past few years for my PhD, and this is exactly what you see, that it's like a very specific demographic that's at least the early uptakers, sort of. So let's say under 35s are the most common user groups, so between 18 and 35, let's say. But we do see that is now spreading, and of course you also have to see that there are different demographics interested in different solutions. So whereas the kick scooters, maybe a more even younger demographic also, because unfortunately here you need a driving license for it, but in some other places this is not the case. So it can even be a solution for teenagers. But then you see, for example, ride sharing or car sharing. I mean, that then is a bit more of interest to some older demographics as well.
Now, we touched upon it a bit before, but for viewers who maybe never did anything apart from drive their own car, maybe get a cab or take the bus, what are some of the options that are now available to them, and how can they connect? I know you touched upon it a little bit before, but can we reiterate a little bit for some viewers?
Yes, practically from the Tallinja point of view, once you've got your Tallinja card, you are very, very mobile. Because you can catch the ferry, you can catch the bus, you can take the Go So Fast ferry now, you can take one of the Tallinja bikes. So with one card, everything is integrated and you're just literally moving from one platform to another. So it's very, very, very integrated, very joint. I mean, imagine you took the ferry, you took the bike, and then suddenly you're taking the bus and you've chose 3 different means of transport. It's very, very, very easy. I mean, I invite one to literally take the plunge, not to be afraid of technology. It's easy, it's straightforward, and just go for it, you know, and lessen your use in your car or on your bike, you know.
You know, it's really, really a great option to have in Malta right now. So moving forward, what are some of the next steps we may be seeing when it comes to innovation in Malta? Is there something that's, you know, in your head that you're dreaming up right now, or you're seeing abroad that might be practical in Malta's context?
What probably will happen is wider spread, because at the moment you probably realize that the services are being offered mostly, I wouldn't say always, but mostly in concentrated parts of the country, because that is where the increased use is. But one is definitely would be looking at more widespread and a little bit more freedom with where you can use your vehicle, with where you can leave your vehicle, how long you can keep your vehicle. So the more it grows and the more the demand grows, so it will become more and more flexible. The more users use it, the better it is. You know, technology will keep advancing. You know, we can put more vehicles on the road. So that's what we're seeing long term.
Suzanne?
Well, I would say one, what I said before about the integration in terms of payment, in terms of information. But second, and I'm not sure it will be qualified as an innovation, but apart from all these new options, opportunities that we now have, the incentives that there are, which they call the carrots, you know, the nice things, we actually, to promote that shift towards cleaner transport, towards more active transport, you also need some measures that might hurt a little bit more. So for example, paid parking or low emission zones where certain cars are not allowed, because we see from abroad, I mean from studies as well, that the only real way to change how people move is to make what you want more attractive, more fun, cheaper, more easy, but also to make what we don't want anymore, to make that a little bit more difficult. Of course, providing other options. But yes, I think we are now ready, now that we have all these opportunities, to move in that direction, because first of all, we know we need to reduce our emissions. We know how important air quality is, how important more public spaces and better public spaces are. So I really hope we are now at the start of that shift as well.
And I think it's a very, very exciting time for Malta, especially seeing the quick developments we're seeing in so many sectors. Guys, if you have not yet got a Tallinja card, I do suggest you grab one, even for a day or two. Try it out. As we've pointed out today, there are multiple options, very green options as well, very sustainable options as well, so you can be doing good while, you know, doing something to reduce traffic in Malta. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Let us know in the comments below what you think as far as transportation in Malta is. What areas would you see improvement in? Is there anything abroad that you'd like to see in Malta? And your reaction to today's conversation. Until next time, have a day full of lovin'.